be on a sabbatical from Facebook. I was off Facebook maybe about a month, if that long, maybe 3 weeks, and then I got back on. And I noticed as soon as I got back onto Facebook, those feelings came back, this a different me. I saw things I didn't want to see on Facebook again. I'm like, why do I keep getting up here doing this to myself? I do think it's very hard to get disconnected from Facebook. I think it has to be a deep choice, even something that God has to help you with, because it's so enchanting and you feel like there's a void in your life once you break free from it. I think the biggest thing is building a persona that's not real. You post up these pictures because you want to look good. You post up videos because you want to seem important. You write statuses to make you seem like you're deep, like you have some kind of God-given insight. In my personal experience, I feel like Facebook is causing people to, I think it's more shallow with relationships on Facebook. It's distorted because we feel like we are getting more connected to people because you have a scope into their lives. So we feel like, hey, I know this person, I know what they're doing. But I think that's just the surface. We don't really know what a person is dealing with, nor do we care. I won't say I'm going to be off Facebook forever, but right now I do enjoy this feeling that I have of being away from Facebook. I just feel like I have more time to do more things. It's just a piece that you can't experience any other way. When you're really down and out, you can't go to Facebook. It's those face-to-face, the family, your closest friends, your church, that's going to be there for you. Social networking sites are an enhancer for life relationships, but it's not a replacement.
Nicholas Carr stirred things up when he published an article in The Atlantic titled, "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" He is certainly not the only person to be concerned about the potential intellectual costs because of today's technology and media. Another person who has voiced his concerns is Professor Mark Bauerlein. My daughter Elizabeth and I visited Mark, who is serving at Princeton on a teaching fellowship and whose continuing work is at Emory University as Professor of English. He is also author of the book, The Dumbest Generation: How the Digital Age Stupefies Young Americans and Jeopardizes Our Future.
The digital age has swept into teenagers and young adults' lives like a tidal wave. It has now affected every waking moment of their lives. In their room at night, not only do they have the TV with 300 cable stations, but they also have the video game console as well, and they have the laptop, of course, and the cell phone. This makes social life a 24/7 condition, and it makes teenagers now growing up with one another, taking their cues from one another to, again, an unprecedented degree. And this is something altogether new in the history of human civilization. Never have teenagers been able to screen out adults so thoroughly as they're able to now.
I asked Mark what he would say to his students who are caught up in the digital age. How would he exhort them to aspire to better things?
The more you hang out with one another, the more you get online and interact, the more you just become a mass. It's a great big race to the middle. That's what happens to you if you don't do something different with yourselves. And that means reading books, knowing a little bit about history. Read Witness by Whittaker Chambers, his biography of being a communist spy and then turning and going to the government and giving evidence about espionage, communist espionage in the United States. This is a great story. You should all know this. You'll encounter people who actually face real stakes in their lives. He didn't sit around and say, "Oh, my girlfriend dumped me, and I feel horrible. Let me go talk to my friends." No, I'm going to go change my Facebook page. The trivia of youth are amplified by these digital tools. What is the motto of YouTube? Broadcast yourself. Well, guess what? Yourself may not be that important. That may not be such a great subject to focus so much time on. One of the dismaying things about you guys is you get together and all you do is talk about your friends and what you do. You don't talk about anything else. You know how boring you are?
Well, there was a scholar from New York University named Neil Postman, really important guy, wrote a book called Amusing Ourselves to Death. The title of the book should tell us something, because muse means to think, means not. So amuse means to not think. So think of that next time you go to an amusement park. This is where people go so that they don't think, right? That's the idea. He actually proves in that book, the more television you watch, the dumber you get.
3 years ago, I picked up a copy of Neil Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death. He's a college professor, so one of the exercises he'd have his students do was to go on I believe in the book it was a 1 month media fast, so I just decided to do the exact same thing. 1 month, let's just shut down all media. No more television, no internet, no blogging, and anything that was digitally related.
Our children were not initially enthusiastic about the Media Fest. They were terrified.
Our first impressions were rather shocked and a little bit scared. But as we got along closer to the day and we were praying about it, we were thinking about it a lot, we were excited.
I don't think one of our children would say, no, we wish we never had to do it, because there is a benefit. It just gives you perspective on how much time you're spending doing stuff.
Couldn't stop thinking about music, just wanted to turn on the radio or just look up something just for fun or just watch a quick movie. It was pretty shocking how addicted I was, and I didn't like that at all.
And it kind of helps, if any sort of addictions are building up, it kind of helps to break those.
It is a fast, and it takes time, and it's not just one day and then you're through with your pain. No, it keeps going. But then once we get near the end, it's easier, you enjoy it, you really can see the difference.
It's not just about taking away. If all you do is take away from your kids something and leave them nothing, they're in no better spot.
They loved the extra time of playing basketball with Dad or playing cards with me or just working on extra things.
During Media Fast, we still play games, so it's not a game fast, but how the game is delivered is really important. When we have a board game, it's much more conversational. It's much more slow down, and you can take breaks, and it's not a little bit less pressure to it. We do family devotions, but some of the most significant theological discussions have happened as we just discuss something over a board game, having normal conversations. Our lives are so busy and noisy, and it's also it brings a quietness, and then quietness is when you hear God's voice.
It is so sweet, the silence, and not just the silence, but the peace. Because if you're doing everything and you have this noise going through your head, you really cannot have peace, and you don't know that you're missing it until you have it. The first year we did it, I remember going and just. My chores were done, my schoolwork was done, and so what do? I go outside and read the Bible for hours. And before that, it didn't occur to me, or I didn't have time. Sure, I read the Bible, but just to spend hours and enjoy it and have an amazing time doing it, it was really an eye-opener. I'll watch a certain movie before, and then after Media Fast, I get stronger convictions and standards, higher standards, and then I'll go back and watch it and think, what did I see in this? What was so appealing?
The most important thing for me, for my kids to have, is that they would love God with all their heart and know Him and live their life in relationship with Him.
This has been so good in our lives, and it hasn't been boring at all.
We're not just saying no media, but we're saying use it in responsible and God-glorifying ways.
There are so many things to think about when it comes to media consumption, including its potential impact on our physical bodies. I've read many articles on effects ranging from hearing loss due to headphones, eye strain from hours of screen time, the ongoing debate whether cell phone use can cause brain cancer, kids getting carpal tunnel syndrome from so much texting, car accidents caused by texting and driving, and the list continues on.
So all of this technology is capable of wonderful benefits. However, because it's powerful, we have to use it aware of what the downside is. And there are downsides, and some of the downsides are physical. We know that it's intuitive and it's backed up by research that kids who spend the most time in front of screens are also at the higher risk for overweight and obesity. We know, for example, that sleep is impacted by that. And so kids who watch a lot of media, particularly arousing media, particularly violent media, shortly before they go to bed, we know that sleep is delayed and sleep is often interrupted. Aside from the content, aside from the what of what young people are doing with the media and technology, we need to pay attention to how much, because it has a big impact on things like exercise, sleep, nutrition, and all of those things are very, very important, not just for our cardiovascular health, but for our mental health and our spiritual health.
In this last year, I was able to travel to Kansas City and met a Christian school administrator who told me a fascinating story. He had 6 parents independently come to him and say, my child has been diagnosed ADHD, or even bipolar. And the doctor tells us we need to have them on medication. What is it that we need to do? And he said, look, I'm not your medical doctor. I'm not going to tell you to medicate or not medicate. That's a medical decision, and you shouldn't be making that for yourself. I shouldn't be making that for you. But let's try an experiment first. He said, before you go on the medication, I want you to try this. I want you to feed your child 3 nutritious meals every day. And he had to define nutrition for them because they had no idea what a nutritious meal actually was. Second, he said, I want your child in bed by 9 o'clock on weeknights and 10 o'clock on the weekends. Third, he said, I want you to limit video gaming and television to a half hour per week, not per day, per week. And then he said, and I want you to take your child outside to play 1 hour every day during the week and then 3 hours on the weekends. Well, the parents were up in arms. So how are we going to be able to pull all this off? How do we get them off the video games? How do we get them outside? In fact, some of the parents, they lived in an urban area, an inner city area, and they said, we can't send our children outside to play because it's dangerous. And the headmaster said very wisely, then you go outside with them. Here's what happened. All 6 of those children were able to avoid being on the medication. They were all able to be healed just through the normal nutrition, a good night's sleep, and outside activity restored them to the normal balance. Well, that's the way God designed them to be. And the additional benefit is this. Because those parents had to take their children outside to play, there was an adult presence in the neighborhood. The drug dealers all slunk away, and the neighborhood was actually reclaimed for the community just because these parents said, for the sake of the health of our children, we're going to just